All right, so we're back with part two of 1,236. What
Are you
did
saying there are going to be 1,236 parts to this?
yeah,
Because if the way Skype is going, there might be.
yeah, we're gonna just do this as we go because this is cutting out pretty bad. So my apologies. I apologize on my behalf because I don't know what's going on. Um, it's just crazy. So Skype's going crazy, but I really like how John Carlin like tauntos him, like he charges him, I should say, like a bull. And you have Christopher Pennock escaping again. They mentioned Quentin in this episode, as like I was saying. So they're keeping David Selby's character alive, even though he's not in these episodes, which I find really interesting.
David Selby, when he's in an episode, it's interesting. When he's not, it's interesting.
Sure.
That's the power of that man.
I mean, yeah, David Selby has played this Quentin probably the most heroic Quentin we've ever seen. I mean, I really like this Quentin most of all. I think he's my favorite one. But
most reliable and trustworthy.
Yeah, because he's the one who initially starts the investigation into the room. And Gabriel eventually tags along, and they're sort of like a Batman and Robin-esque team for it.
Do you think if Selby had been around, he would have taken him in the room rather than Grayson Hall?
I think so. Yeah, I have a feeling that's who that was wrote for too.
Just imagine, this is a sentence Grayson Hall never thought she would ever hear. Well, without David Selby around, we have to give you all the stuff he would have done. Really? Yes. Okay.
I also think that that the stuff that Grayson says is now rewrote for her. I don't think it would have been written for David. Yeah, yes. Give me a second. I'll get it for you. Go ahead, Patrick. I got to get my son something.
Exactly. So, I love that Kirk Douglas musical number in 20,000 Leagues of the Under the Sea. And Kirk's saucy in that one because at one point he turns his back to the camera. And he kind of wiggles his behind. It's like, what's going on with that? Won't let that happen. That's sheer carnality. So you heard it here first. If you're mindful of your morals, watch out for Kirk Douglas singing "Whale of a Tale, I'll sing you lads, whale of a tale or two." But that one, yeah. And what if they had gotten Kirk Douglas to play the Peter Lorre part and gotten Peter Lorre to play the brawny sailor Ned Land? That would have been cool. Okay.
Okay, but with this episode, I do think that a lot of stuff I think stuff that is now for Grayson got rewrote for her because I think this is intended for Quentin. Gabriel taking her to the room and them going down into the secret room in the prior episode. Really well done. And I love the reveal here. Dan Curtis has reeled us in. Here's the reveal. It's two bodies.
It is. And one of the bodies is also looking at himself.
Yep. Keith Prentice. Yep. And you get Nancy Barrett as Amanda. And I like how they don't let Melanie see it, which is really cool. She ends up freeing them from the door that Brutus shut and sealed. Brutus has showed some amazing power for his warlock abilities here, for his supernatural abilities, even as a ghost.
Lights.
Yep.
The lights, and so he's got a rheostat.
I really like Robert Coburt's music as well in here a bit. We get a little bit of sound with him, which is really nice. It's always nice to hear something from a Robert Coburt score. Really genius.
It is a weird moment when he has to tell Julia, now don't touch it. Don't touch the weird spider web covered corpse, because touching it would not be my first instinct.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when we touch the honesty's too much. And I think that's what they learn.
Yeah. I think too, Julia says it to him. She goes, "That's how you became possessed, isn't it?" She asked him. And he goes, yes. And so we learned that in this episode here. Again, we're getting a good deal of reveal. This is also the episode where you're getting the hint Morgan's going to go mad in this episode. It's brief. It's a brief interaction with Catherine that he goes, "You don't love me, do you?" And I think that this episode is sort of the start of the descent of Morgan.
I would say you're right.
It's really great job by not just the writers but Keith Prentice to sell that coming out of the room, because we're at the point you're wondering as a fan, like even when you've watched this, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of, okay, when is it going to be Morgan's turn to go crazy? Because we've seen him be possessed and we've seen everybody who's survived the room go crazy. Now we also have a killing that's going to take place off. Daphne doesn't die in this episode. She's going to die soon. We talked about,
what a tease.
We talked about in the prior episode that we feel they should have killed her off just then, but they're dragging it out a little bit. They don't show her or Bramwell in this episode. Really, but who we get in this episode? We get Julia Collins, we get Kendrick, we get Melanie, we get Morgan, we get 2 dead bodies. Really great stuff. But
the only thing I don't get is Craig T. Nelson in The Return of Count Yorga. Sorry, he's on the screen right now over there.
I have a question for you. How did they do like the double body thing with? Did they just make up 2 people to look like?
No. Because there's that weird blue line around them. It's a chroma key effect. They filmed them earlier that day or the day before, at a cast party or something, and then they just projected that.
I really like how it looks, though. It looks real, and I love how. I mean, look, for a 60s show, Dark Shadows ages really, really well with what they did and how they shot stuff in chroma key, and the fact that you're able to, and really what sells it to isn't just the bodies. It's Keith Prentice and Grayson Hall selling the fact that there's bodies there, but the fact that they're able to pull it off from a look standpoint is really, really cool.
It is. And now imagine Louis Edmonds running his lines. Around now, it's like, look at the script. Okay. He laughs like Fire Marshal Bill from In Living Color.
Yeah, Jim Carrey watched this episode, which I would believe too. Mad TV was better than In Living Color. I mean, what?
But nobody saw it. Let me tell you something. When we were looking for Osama bin Laden all those years, you know where he was hiding out?
Where?
In the cast of Mad TV. He's in the opening credits. Nobody knew because nobody saw it.
There was a skit called Al Jazeera English where they're going deaf to America and deaf to Jim Carrey. What? I'm like, what? Oh my God. But anyway, with this episode, I love how Louis Edmonds does the laugh. We also see Catherine in this episode. She has a nightmare. I love how you get them banging on the door, Keith Prentice and Julie, and you have Catherine waking up, and you're thinking, oh my God,
yes.
Did she dream it? Like, did she dream them down in there? And I love that little suggestion by the writers. And all she says is she had a bad dream about Daphne, which I get why we know Daphne's dying.
It was a little cop out, though. You wanted it to be where she had a vision,
I know, right? That would have been cool. I don't mind what they did here, though, too, because, you get the sense of Daphne's dying. I do think the writers did have a bit of a missed opportunity with that little aspect. But I sort of think because they've been heavily relying on Carrie Stokes to do the visions, Kathy Cody's character, they didn't give Laura Parker that Gold Nugget. I wish they would have, you know, but
It was nice.
Yeah, I really like the the little fight sequence we get with Carlin and Paddock. It's not much. What's your
But
favorite
it's
part?
gold.
It is. I mean, it's not a big slug out. It's just one punch, but it's pretty good.
Okay, so my favorite part, you know, as always, but especially in 1840 parallel time, 1841 parallel time. It's the beginning of the episode because that's resolving the big cliffhanger from the day before.
Yeah.
So it's going into the room, it's seeing that, it's like, okay, this is Dark Shadows. None of this emotional maturity, emotional Zen stuff. I mean, that's fine, you know, but come on, that's not why we're tuning in. I mean, it's like, okay, yes, we saw good, mature writing of our writers, but really, we want ghosts and chroma keyed corpses and things like that.
I think that's the thing about 1841 that we've discussed pretty heavily on here. It's some of the most adult writing in Dark Shadows history. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know Quentin loses his son, but this whole arc here has been one big adult writing after the other.
It's like all of that put together. Yeah,
it is. And we get don't get me wrong, we get supernatural aspects in this arc. We get the ghost of Brutus. We get James Forsythe we get possessions. We get all that, but it's very few and far between that we get those. And when we get them in sudden outbursts. We don't get them back to back episodes. We get the more mature writing and more the sort of adult content of the maturity in this arc. The payoff, the reward for our patience is the supernatural stuff. It really is.
I agree.
And I like how, again, what did you think of the bodies? I love how they did that.
Spider webs were terrific. If they were spider, maybe it was like a shroud that had dissolved. I couldn't be sure. It was a little bit of one, a little bit of the other.
Whatever they used, it looked good and it looked creepy on the bodies. Whatever they filmed them in earlier in the day or whatever they had on it was really clever because it gave it that extra creepy factor. And plus, you did sort of see the eyes move a bit on Nancy Barrett's character, and Grayson Hall sells that.
She's good. It's all about reacting.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, she's like, you get why she's scared, and you're wondering, like, Keith Prentice's Morgan is being really brave in this episode, like down in there, because he's been down there before, but when he hears Melanie, he's like, Melanie, I'm not. He's scared too. What did you think of? We do sort of get Keith Prentice's slow descent in this episode. What did you think of that?
You know, that guy must have an elevator going down to the bowels of the earth. He descends and descends. Just when you think he's not descending, he can't descend any further. He finds more room to go nutty.
I think what's really interesting about that whole conversation too is that it's right after Gabriel threatens to kill Catherine if she doesn't give him money, and she gives him jewels, and he hugs her, but then it's like this really sudden turn. You get, do you really love me? If Daphne dies, Bramwell will be free again. I don't think you love me. And it's like, here it comes. Here's the start of the descent.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the writers, but goddamn, Keith Prentice was gold right here.
He's terrific.
I mean, good job. What did you think of, because the person who starts our narration is Laura Parker in this episode, but she also started this arc with the opening narration. What do you think?
She has the perfect pitch for this kind of drama, and it's a wonderful, almost old radio windup.
It is like if you go back and listen to each introduction of Dark Shadows, whether it's Alexander Moltke Isles, it does give that old radio feel. And I could sort of see, was Dark Shadows played on the radio in the 60s?
Nope.
Really?
It would have been a perfect radio show, but no. I think radio shows were done by then.
Yeah, true.
I mean,
I know a lot of soaps started on the radio.
absolutely. And I maybe if you were still playing, is Guiding Light still on, or did it finally get snuffed?
I'm not sure. I know Days of Our Lives is still going, so.
Sammy. Is Sammy still on?
I don't know. I don't watch as often as
I sure like that Allison Sweeney. But then she got, I don't know. This is neither here nor there. Getting into personal stuff. I like early Sammy rather than late Sammy.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But with this, back to this episode,
dirty.
We don't get Gabriel's death at all. That's going to come here soon, but they do tease. Morgan says, "I got to be the one who kills Gabriel." We do. That's where we get the mention of Quentin, where Julie says, "Wait for Quentin," and he goes, "No, no, no." So we do get him. We do get Quentin being mentioned this episode. He's not shown. Obviously, he's not going to be. So we're gonna have this
right now. He's not going any. Quentin's nutty on Percocet right now in a hospital. He's not going anywhere.
This is true. This is very, very true. David Selby is not walking back through that door, unfortunately.
I've had it with the show. Oh, my appendix.
Could you imagine if Dan Curtis would have pitched and said, "Hey, I get David Selby to come back. Keith Prentice is coming back. Laura Parker's coming back. Would you pick us back up if I have a great arc coming back?"
Dan, unless it's an episode called "Raise the Titanic," I can't make it. Sorry, Pally.
Oh my god! Do you think they could have kept, like, if Dark Shadows would have continued? Do you think they could have kept Selby or no?
No, this was a golden opportunity. I mean, he was making a Barbra Streisand movie.
Yeah.
Up the Sandbox. He's making Super Cops. D-Cell had stuff to do. They were lucky they kept him as long as they did.
Yeah, that's true. I think the fact
Mike Stroka was probably available.
Yeah, I think that's the thing too. There's actors with Dark Shadows you could have brought back, like Michael Stroka. I mean, he would have been available. Great actor. Yeah. But I think the fact that look, the show's on its last limbs. We only have so many episodes left to go. They know they're closing the doors. David Selby's headed to Hollywood, and why not? He damn well deserves to be there. Keith Prentice, he's shown he's a rising star in this entire arc. But every Hollywood missed out. I agree with you.
And they're honestly, Dark Shadows is Barnabas. Dark Shadows is Jonathan Frid. As much as we might want to dress it up as something else, it's that it is the wound that doesn't heal. And that's what Barnabas has. He's good at suffering. They ended Quentin's suffering pretty quickly, and then he just mopes. But Barnabas, he's the eternal optimist. He'll keep trying to get a better situation.
I think now we're a little more fortunate now that more television actors and actresses get an opportunity or a chance. Whereas in the 60s, yeah, they got opportunities, but it depended on what part you played.
Very much so.
Which is sad. I mean, there was a lot of actors and actresses on Dark Shadows that knew what the hell they were doing. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, Laura Parker was on television, but
she didn't get the acting career that she deserved.
No. I mean, you get to be David Carradine's love interest in the first episode of Kung Fu. You get to be Bruce Banner's wife. It's like, come on, really? Like, I love those shows, but
it could have been more. We should have more than Race the Devil.
Yeah. We really should. You know, if
you with the hunk, don't you? Yes. Who is it? Warren Oates. Ah, okay. Okay, Warren Oates.
you know how Madonna got the co-lead in Dick Tracy. Give it to Laura Parker instead.
Laura Parker's done a musical, Lulu, so she's part.
No, I mean, why not?
The story is that when Madonna got the songs for that movie, written by Stephen Sondheim, who wrote Sweeney Todd and The Last of Sheila, and won an Oscar for writing those songs in Dick Tracy. Apparently, the legend is she looked at it and said, "What is this high class crap?" Madonna. I don't love her. Warren Beatty. I think you made the right choice, pal. I'm just saying.
Yeah. What's your favorite pulp movie in the 90s?
I think probably overall the most they're the big two. I like them both. I like The Shadow.
Yeah.
And I like The Phantom. I think Phantom probably is a little more successful. It has better screen.
Oh, come on. Really? What happened? We're keeping this. We're keeping this. I have no idea what the hell's going on. If I'm getting... All right. Let me